Hello, friends, and welcome to the CUInsight Network podcast. My name is Lauren Culp. I'm the president and CEO at CUInsight.com. And it's my job on this show to have conversations with all of the thought leaders who support the credit union community. There are so many of them, and together we get to talk about all of the issues that affect credit unions and the best practices, the goal being that we all learn from one another and improve our industry together. My guest on today's show is Chuck Long. He is the general manager at Zogo. Chuck, thank you for being here.
Super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I like to start off all of our episodes the same way, which is to say that most of us did not grow up thinking we would get to work with credit unions. I did not even know what a credit union was as a teenager or young adult. What did you want to be growing up, first of all?
Well, first, I'll resonate on the fact that I also did not know what a credit union was growing up. It wasn't until about 4 or 5 years ago with Zogo at Finovate when we won back in 2019 that credit unions approached us and went home and did some pretty aggressive research to find out there's a whole industry out there making a bunch of impact. So glad I learned what credit unions were. But no, my background was not a path that would have led me to Zogo. It's pretty interesting how I got here. I was a pre-med student focused on going to medical school and specializing, residency, all the fun stuff that follows. But my junior year of college, I had a friend that was close with the founder, Bolin, and I got the awesome opportunity to check Zogo out and hopefully add it to a resume. This is when Zogo was very, very young. It was just starting to get into business and, got to learn about the credit union difference, got an opportunity in sales. And, now I function as our GM, but a little bit different than being a doctor, but still making an impact, just doing it slightly differently.
I like it. We know too that financial health is very closely linked with physical health. So I would say there's probably some still physical health impacts on some of the work you do. Tell me a little bit about, so you mentioned it at a high level, but that journey to your current role now as general manager at Zogo, what was that like?
Well, I started as an intern. There were 4 or 5 of us. This is back in 2019. And my job was cold calling users and offering them up. If you know Zogo well, we have pineapples. That's our in-app currency. But offering them up pineapples for, being willing to hop on a phone call with Chuck for, about 15 minutes to ask about their experience, who they are, like doing all of the consumer studies that we should be doing to deliver a better product. At that point, we found that direct consumer probably wasn't going to be our path, that, this credit union difference is something we really aligned with, and that was going to be our focus. And, getting credit unions involved was a focus for us. But that being said, there was a partnership component to that and building these types of relationships. And I guess Bolin, who was our founder back in the day, he thought I was good at talking to people and offered me the opportunity to talk to some other individuals that weren't users. And, in our first year, I had started doing that. We had 10 partners. We grew to over 70 that first year. Part of the reason for the divergence in path for myself, but it was just so exciting. When the people that we got to work with, I felt were so aligned with, myself and Zogo and what we were founded on. Today we have over 275 financial institution partners across the United States. We've won many awards. Over 2 million individuals have been impacted, and we do these pre and post assessments. So we get to see their growth in knowledge. We see their growth in confidence. So being able to see that, is why my goal is to continue to see this grow, continue to drive impact, continue to drive innovation for credit unions so that we can get in front of individuals and change their lives.
I love hearing that. And I know you talked a little bit about Zogo, but tell us all the things about Zogo. Where do you really shine and where do you add value for credit unions?
Great question. So a brief background on Zogo. We exist as a number of different tools intended to help individuals grow in their financial wellness journey. We have the Zogo app, which is on the App Store and Google Play, and we co-brand that with credit unions by access code. We have a Zogo web product, which is, what the industry I think is most familiar with, which is just a page on your website that individuals can access. It's broadly available. It's web and mobilely optimized, very brilliantly built. We have Classroom, so enabling teachers to be able to curate curriculums in schools and impact the next generation of learners and spenders and borrowers and savers and all of that fun stuff. And then we offer a suite of integrations. So we integrate with a number of mobile banking providers, bringing this really incredible experience into what we call like your mobile branch. Outside of that, the piece, I didn't dictate it as a product, but it very much is our partner portal where all of this data and insights and better understanding your consumers and your communities is all available in one very pretty place. So we built it in-house, and it's a really amazing tool that we put together to help partners, again, make decisions on the engagements that we're driving.
That is so cool. I know we've gotten to work with a number of Zogo folks over the years. We always love the chance to hear more about what you do. And I'd love to dive in a little bit more to financial literacy, which is so important. And credit unions really leading the charge to help with educating their members. Where and how do you see credit union members really engaging on financial literacy?
I am going to take a step back. I'm going to answer this question, but going into a little bit more detail on that last one to help drive a better response for here. So this may be a little bit of a Chuck monologue here, so interrupt me if I go on too long. But the products that Zogo's developed, how does that add value for credit unions? I would say the main goal here is like, how does a company help credit unions stay ahead of these fintechs, stay ahead of the competition that's out there? Zogo, we're great at building tech. We're great at understanding consumers and what they like and what they want to use and come back to and use over and over again. We're great at content. But helping credit unions, providing fun, rewarding, innovative tech in a very scalable way, like we pride ourselves on that. And that's something we'll continue to do and we'll continue to grow on. The second point is, based on both of our, initial discussions on our knowledge of credit unions and the credit union industry, a big goal of ours is to bring awareness to credit unions. Credit unions are known for offering spectacular rates, for investing into their communities and their members. This is the type of group that we want to drive individuals to help them on their financial, again, wellness journey and help this next generation of consumers. No one should be, churning, what was I guess, 21 when I learned what a credit union was. No one should be turning 20, 21, and have no idea what a credit union is. So that's, part of our mission is solving that. And then back to that partner portal, like data insights are incredibly important. Like understanding your existing and your future members is how you're going to better serve them. But diving into like financial literacy specifically, I separate this question into 4 groups in my head. So the first part is no one's going to use anything that's difficult to use. I describe this as accessibility. So, why Zogo exists in so many formats, app, web, classroom, integrations, all of that, is because people will use things that are in the environment in which they would like to use them. They tend to stray away from using things that are difficult to get to. So let's meet them where they're at and offer that as an opportunity. So enabling members to learn the way that they would like to. The second point that I like to bring things to is like providing in bold the right education in the format that people want to learn. Zogo, we're known, if you look us up, you see bite-sized content everywhere. We're, drivers of making content. We have these modules that comprise skills, skill being buying a car. But these modules are all 1 to 3 minutes, and they're kind of like you're thinking about this process. Learn, and then you answer quiz questions, and you earn points every time you get things right. You earn points for answering survey questions. But I was like, I spent a lot of my time engaging with a number of different platforms that are out there and understanding how they provide education and wanting to learn that. I was the other day, I was taking a survey about me, and it was like asking about my relationship with learning in school. And not everyone resonates with the textbook, long article, teachers sitting in front of you, learn this, learn that way of learning. A lot of the, the new generation, next generation, I should say, they like learning through gamification. And, we really want to help credit unions be able to do that. And recognizing from a bite-sized content perspective, attention spans for everybody are shortening. It's not just the next generation that's experiencing that. It's people of all ages. And we want to be able to provide content in a way that aligns with the way people like to learn or that we've seen people like to learn. The next piece is personalization. We're known for like our learning pathways. So we curate content for end consumers based on their age, so hitting them with the life cycle stage, as well as like what they're interested in. So talking about like news, like letters, how they like ask you what you want to learn about and deliver articles based on that. We do a very similar fashion, and you get this custom learning pathway based on the formula that we have. But how do you support that? All of the members can access to broader content, but giving them focus around things that they care to learn about. In the last, another piece on, personalization, I like to talk about this relationship that we recently brought on with College Board. So individuals can learn about scholarships and grants from College Board, who's, well known in this kind of like college transfer space. And it's just something that Zogo does. It's very unique. And then the last piece for this question, I promise I'll move on to the next one, but this idea of showing growth. And when I'm referencing growth here, I'm referencing growth in knowledge and confidence. Zogo, one of the parts of our tools that people really, really like is this pre and post assessment strategy, where we show growth and knowledge, not only to the credit union and for you to be able to learn like our people engaging and also growing as part of this platform, but also to the end consumer. So being able to see their growth and knowledge and confidence over time. People like using things that they feel like are helping them win and helping them get ahead. And making that clear to them, I think, has been a really great driver for getting, supporting us and getting people back to the platform.
I love hearing about all of the different ways that Zogo engages with folks in terms of educating them on their finances. And of course, just having financial literacy for the sake of financial literacy maybe isn't the end goal, but financial wellness really would be. And I know credit unions right now are talking a lot about how they can have some long-term impact in their communities. From your perspective at Zogo, what do you see really moving the needle for financial wellness and impact? And are there any credit union success stories you can share of folks who do it really well?
Yep. I love this question. First and foremost, I think a big mission for the industry is, like I mentioned earlier, it's staying in front of these direct-to-consumer fintechs. How are credit unions offering tools based on all of those factors I kind of referenced earlier? Again, able to get in front of these consumers and deliver an experience that excites them and makes them want to come back. Zogo's whole model is bringing fintech innovation at scale to credit unions in a very turnkey way. Our entire basis, the way that we've gotten to where we're at today and where we're going to be in the future, is based on turnkey access to innovation and being able to do that in an impact-driven way. The one example of a partner that I've just, I've really, really, I love all of our partners, but I really loved what they've done with Zogo over the years is Visions Federal Credit Union. They use all of Zogo's products. They're an earlier adopter of Zogo, have always been kind of in the forefront of like, Zogo, what do you think that we could do that's, unique and cool? And they do this in every part of their business strategy. But like one example is they were our initial leader a couple of years back in bringing mobile banking integration to the forefront. But as part of that, they were an earlier leader in bringing crypto to credit unions. And they use Zogo as an education tool to get people educated on crypto and rewarding them for learning about it when it's something that there's not a lot of knowledge that's out there around that subject. And again, we don't have to go into the conversations of what are my thoughts on crypto, everyone, all of that fun stuff, or what are people's thoughts in general. But that is just, to me, that is incredibly unique. That is the definition of innovation. And as someone who has, potentially every neobank, every institution app on my phone, every fintech that's out there, I'm constantly adding, using for a week or 2 weeks, and then deleting. That kind of stuff is just what I think does a really good job of driving individuals to want to not only just download it, but to stay.
That is such a cool story. And shout out Visions. That's awesome, awesome work. One of the things that you mentioned is having all of these sort of neobank and fintech apps on your phone. And one thing that they do really well is digital. Digital innovation is something credit unions are starting to embrace, but many of us are a little bit behind the big banks, the neobanks, the fintechs. Zogo in particular has a really great digital experience for its users. And I loved what you were saying earlier about meeting them on the platform and the channels that they want to be in. And I'm curious from your perspective, how do you think digital innovation really needs to tie in for credit unions who want to retain their members?
I spend a lot of my time talking to credit unions. It's something I love to do. And, what I've learned, credit unions are incredibly brilliant when it comes to what people want, what are people interested in, all of that. A lot of that, for the most part, is known. The harder part is competing with fintechs when it comes to engineering resources and all of that. Like a lot of fintechs are very well funded, and there's a lot of, I can't even imagine for the accountants out there, people costs associated with having this high of caliber of engineers constantly on staff and a ton of them. it's just really hard to compete with. And that is why when we talk about, how do credit unions stay relevant, it seems biased because I'm the GM of a fintech that, provides services to credit unions, but I really do mean it. Like Zogo is a tool that we bring on a partner and we launch within a week. I mean, there's very little information needed. And being able to stay ahead on innovation, being able to offer a learn and earn app to your customer or your members, I should say, in communities, being able to offer a web product that is built by brilliant designers, integrations, it's a snap of a finger. And it's just something that, there's other fintechs doing it in different ways. To just take that into consideration because they have some really, there's some really brilliant tools out there with really good people backing them and driving the innovation there. And they like to listen. And I would say like one thing to keep in mind is you as a credit union or as you're working with fintechs, recognizing when you're talking to fintechs, are they a fintech that wants to work with you and understand your problems and understand your needs? And obviously every fintech can't create every micro mini customization possible for every partner, but are they listening and are they thinking about how they could do that at scale? That is, in my mind, like how you can tell a true partner. And everyone thinks it's interesting that Zogo uses this language of like partner to describe the credit unions we work with. I would say from like the markets and typically how this is discussed in business, it would be to call a credit union that is working with us a client. But we take the viewpoints and the knowledge that we can learn from our credit unions very seriously. And that is what has made Zogo what it is today. We have some absolutely brilliant people on our team. I cannot deny that. But we listen very, very well and we act on listening. So it's a huge part of our business model. It's a huge part of who we are. And I would urge credit unions to look at vendors that think about things in a similar light, who understand their credit union difference.
That could not be better advice for credit unions. And we love the way that Zogo has really become a part of the credit union space. As we look to the future, what is your focus at Zogo for the road ahead?
Another great question. And this is what I spend a lot of my time thinking about. But when I think of, so Zogo today is a content and content delivery tool. And we're really great at content. We're really great at delivering it. But my next feat is which content to deliver and when. The idea of continued personalization for our partners and for consumers, I think is top of mind. I go through this exercise with myself of like, when do I engage with content? So keep Zogo out of it. Like, when do I engage with the idea of wanting to learn things? So about 6 months ago, I was looking into buying a car. At that point in time, I went directly to ChatGPT and Google to get this kind of education and, what's there? Is it trustworthy? And the fact of the matter is, you don't really trust it. I'm trying to find some validated consumer. I'm trying to keep Zogo out of my mind on this because, that is biased. So like walking myself through in this very opportune time to go through a normal consumer journey. And I struggle with finding validated education on this. So, that is a life cycle stage. That is a time in my life where education is very important. The other time that I've learned from me personally that's really intriguing for learning is when I get these, Medium newsletter, I get my Morning Brew newsletter, I get New York Times, Wall Street Journals. I'm always getting those notifications. I've turned almost every other notification. I got my bank on and I got my newsletters and my newspaper notifications on. But I do that little activity where it pops up and I put my finger on it and I'm looking at it, I'm reading what the headline is. And if the headline is interesting to me or relevant to me, then I open it up and I read it. And my thought is, why wouldn't Zogo do the same thing? So I think back to a year and a half ago when there was a lot that happened in the banking space and we had a lot of partners reaching out to us like, our members are nervous. Like, is their money safe? And it's so simple. Like being able to educate on NCUA insurance is just a very easy feat. At that point in time, we did release a new functionality called Trending Topics. That was an opportunity for us to be able to highlight topics that we feel like are particularly relevant in a period of time. But I want more of that. And I want more of that, like, Chuck, when do you like to learn? And then driving push notifications on, oh, they said the morning, not just taking that data and doing nothing with it, but actioning on it. So it's like, oh, awesome. Like, you like to learn in the morning? We'll send you a push notification. You're on Eastern time at 8 a.m. So you have the opportunity to go through a little bit of learning before you go to work. So answering those, getting those types of responses and then acting on it. There's other things too, not to drag it on too deep, but like I want integration to drive deeper. We've worked with a number of our partners on this like colleague benefit. So how are we helping our team, not just our members? Those are also really interesting to me. But yeah, I'll end my response there. Or keep going forever.
So what I'm hearing is you don't have much going on at all, pretty empty calendar. Oh my gosh. Well, that is a full plate. It's so cool to hear about all of the work that you are doing over there. As we wrap up the show, I always like to have some fun with rapid fire questions to let our listeners get to know you a little better. The questions are rapid, but your answers don't have to be. So are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Question 1. Who is someone in your life that was a great leader and what makes them so great?
This is such a tough question for me because I've had so many great leaders, and I don't want to be cliche with that, but I really, really have. I was an individual who spent all of their time in a textbook, and the idea of sales was like, is this something, Chuck, are you sure? Like, is this the right way? Are you good at talking to people? Do you understand how that process works? And, working with financial institutions and credit unions, like there's a lot of due diligence, there's understanding the contracting. It's like, oh, Chuck, you don't know any of this. But I will say about school is I did learn how to learn. So I had that opportunity. But when it comes to a great leader in my life, it's so hard to pinpoint one because one of the best benefits that I've had in my time at Zogo is I've had a number of mentors that have been just market leaders in the space that sit down with me and help me learn and just soaking up as much information as I possibly can. And if I said one name here, I would be, it wouldn't be fair to all the other individuals. So what I will shout out is Bolin, who was an individual who gave me that chance and believed in me and wasn't afraid to give criticisms when I needed them, but also told me about the things that I did well. And 4.5 years later, I've learned so much. It's hard to even speak about, but I continue to love to learn, and I appreciate that. And I try to constantly get better every single day and learn about a deeper, understanding the credit union industry, but all industries, because if I can understand how everyone's doing things, then I can better serve this one.
I love it. All right. Question 2. If you are going to splurge on something, say you want to treat yourself, what is one thing you might invest a little bit into, whether that's time or resources?
Okay. This isn't a plug, but I'm going to say something, and it isn't fair because I've already splurged on it, but I did get a new Garmin a couple of weeks ago. The Zogo peeps have heard me talk about it, but the idea of a battery life lasting 16 days on a watch that tracks everything you do, I didn't know it existed. And when I found out it did, I was like, I'm going to splurge on this. And I've absolutely loved it. And I will say, I think it looks pretty fashionable too. So I would say that would be the best answer I have to that question right now.
I like it. That might be the first time we've gotten the Garmin watch. That's awesome. All right. Random question for you. If you travel for work, a lot of us do, what's a city that you're really excited to see coming up for a visit, whether that's a client visit or a conference?
For me, travel is not about where you go. It's about who you're with and the people that are there. And we have so many partners that are all over the place that when I get to see them, it's always a treat and I love it. That being said, I think New York City is pretty spectacular. I've never been anywhere like it. So every time I get the chance to go to New York City, it's a little different than Austin, Texas, which is where I live and where Zogo is headquartered. It's always fun.
Nice. I like it. Well, hopefully we've got some credit union conferences coming up in New York City next year. If you're a conference planner, you can hear our shout out here. Got some ideas for you. All right. Next question. What is a book you think everyone should read?
This is a hard one. I enjoy reading very, very much, but I'll do a book that I've read more recently that I thought was very interesting. I read a book called Influence. It's the psychology of persuasion. And I'm going to butcher his name, but Robert Cialdini is the writer of it. Why I thought it was interesting, one, it's like a mix of science and people and understanding how people think about things. And there's this whole like concept of like click run reactions that's discussed. It's just like people reacting to signals they don't even think about. And it's really interesting. One of the stories that is told, it's told earlier in the book, but it's about this jeweler that, and I'm not saying this is the best practice, but I just found the story very interesting. But it's a jeweler that had these blue emeralds that she was trying to sell. And because everything in the store is so nice, it was, these didn't, they weren't selling super, super well. And she put them on sale. And then, that wasn't working. And then put them at the front of the store. So the first thing, and it's like a pretty touristy location where it's located. And people are going in. The idea is like these tourists, they just want to buy something, be able to take something home. They don't really care about the quality and all of that. That goes into, she's out of town. She decides, oh, I need to get rid of all of this jewelry. And then she tells the clerk and she's like, hey, I want you to put them on half off. I'm going to take a hit. No, I just got to get rid of them. People aren't liking them. Gets back, they're all sold. Coincidentally, the clerk misunderstood and had actually doubled the cost of the blue emeralds, or I forget exactly what it was, but had doubled the cost and they had all gone. And it was just like this idea of people, they assess things on like price is equal to quality and expense is equal to quality, all these different things. And that call to me was, it's just like, we have these different reactions as human beings, but to take a pause when you just want to assume something and to look at it for its true value and be able to recognize like, okay, am I just reacting to this because I naturally want to react like this? Or is this really the case? And there's a number of different examples of different psychological studies that are explained that I just found super interesting because I do this. I have these natural reactions and it's okay. Like it's totally fine. But where else does that apply in life? And I just thought, for me, again, the combination of science, and I wasn't a psychology major. I was biochemistry and nutrition. So a different side of the house, but I just found it, incredibly interesting.
That is so cool. We will link to that book in the show notes here. My next question for you, what has been your best hack for creating balance and integration between your work life and what I always call your life life?
Life. I love it. I have this philosophy around work, and that is that, and a lot of people share this with me, so it's not like Chuck's so unique, but you spend most of your life working. And honestly, my best hack for creating balance with work and life has been learning to love what you do and what you do for work. One way that I've had the fortunate opportunity to do this at Zogo is I've just surrounded myself with people that are incredibly dedicated, that are incredibly intelligent, and I learn from them every single day. And what do I find fun to do in my life? I like to learn. So if I can bring that into work, not saying work is life, but for me, like I love what I do. And do I do it on the weekends? Sure. Because it's not work to me. It's something I'm really enjoying, learning about the industry and, getting to know the people I work with and all this fun stuff. So that would be my answer to that. Otherwise, it is like oh my gosh, I got to close my laptop at, whatever. And going to work tomorrow sounds horrible. And I personally, I don't want to live life like that. I want to wake up excited as much as I can. And some days are tougher than others. It just is what it is. Credit unions I find incredibly interesting because every single time I do the introductions at the beginning of a call and I'm meeting a new credit union individual at a credit union, I ask for what they do, not what their title is, because everyone does so much. The title just doesn't explain it. And, my life's a little bit like that too. But like I have put myself in a position of I like that and I like learning. But great question.
That is awesome. We're going to link to everything we've talked about today in the show notes, like I said along the way. But my last question for you, Chuck, is do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share or final asks of our listeners?
I mean, the fact that you would be still listening is all I ask for. I have a huge appreciation for everyone listening, and I appreciate everything that you do and that the credit union industry does, not only for your members, but your communities. But on the Zogo side of things, we love growing and creating more relationships and learning more from new minds. And again, minds that we already work with, we're always learning. But if you do have interest in learning more about what we do, Our website's pretty easy. It's zogo.com. That's zogo.com. Or you can even feel free to reach out to me directly. My name is, again, Chuck Long. So it's chuck.long@zogofinance.com. And I'd love to, either have that conversation myself or, introduce you to some amazing team members that we have here to, again, be able to learn more. But thank you to you, Lauren. Thank you to the CUInsight.com team. You've been incredible partners of Zogo. And again, thank you to all the listeners.
Well, this is just a perfect way to wrap up. And we so appreciate you, Chuck, for being on the show today. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. And thanks to all of our listeners today for tuning into the CUInsight Network podcast. And we will be back again next time.